Good afternoon, Tim. How you doing, man?
How are you, sir?
Good, good. I'm on my second, the premiere hour, and I wanted to get one of the most interesting men in real estate to come on here and talk about his journey.
Thank you for having me.
Nice journey that he has, so we're going to jump right into it so we can save some time. So, Tim, tell me where you're from, where little Tim grew up, where he was born, and go from there.
I was a military brat. I was actually born in San Diego. I moved in 5 different places before I was 5 years old. So I think I had to become outgoing.
Yeah.
And my parents got divorced when I was 5 or 6. And I moved to this little town called Silsbee, Texas, which if you had lived in the Midwest, it was like moving to a different friggin' country.
Oh, yeah.
I had no idea what collard greens were. I had no idea what red beans and rice were. I had no idea what cornbread were. Tea, to me, was something you drank hot. I mean, I had nothing. So it literally was 6 years old because my parents didn't come with me at first. I got moved down there, my brother and I by ourselves, and we lived with our grandparents, who we hardly knew for 9 months.
Yeah.
It really was like moving to a different country.
Oh, wow.
And it was like culture shock just all at once. So that's how I ended up in Silsbee, which is where I stay home was because I was there from 5 to 18.
Yeah.
And I love Silsbee, but I got out as fast as I could.
Well, yeah. It's kind of like my town of Zachary. You love it, you grow up there, but then you want to get out as quick as you can to see the big cities.
Your town had better food, though, didn't it?
A lot of good food there in Louisiana, man.
Yes, sir.
So for the people who don't know where Silsbee is, it's just outside of Beaumont, isn't it?
Just outside of Beaumont. It's between Beaumont and nowhere, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. If you go Beaumont to nowhere, you'll fall into Silsbee.
Yeah. I only knew 2 other people from Silsbee. I knew one wide receiver that I played against in college. He was from Silsbee. I can't remember his name now, but he was from Silsbee, Texas. And then my son's AAU coach is from Silsbee. He played college basketball at I forgot what school now, but he said he was from Silsbee High School.
It was a great place to grow up. Kind of a funny story. When you live in Silsbee, in a town that small, when a new girl comes to school, it doesn't matter if she's pretty or not, she's pretty to you. Because she's new. And when a new guy came to town, it didn't matter if he was good looking or not. He was good looking to those girls because they were sick of looking at us.
Oh my God, that is
so if you want to be the best looking person in the world, just move to Silsbee at about 17 years old.
That is too funny, man. So now that we talk about your journey from Silsbee, what college did you attend, and
So it was important. So when I was a kid, there was a show called Bewitched. Do you remember Bewitched?
Oh yeah.
So Darren Stevens worked in advertising. He had a nice house, and he had a beautiful wife.
Yeah.
I grew up in Silsbee. I didn't have a wife yet, and I definitely didn't have a house. So I thought that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go into advertising.
Yeah.
And the best school for advertising at the time was Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Also, Texas Tech was as far away as I could get from home and pay in-state tuition.
Oh, wow.
So those were the 2 decision making. So I got an advertising degree from Texas Tech. And I married a woman who's much prettier than Samantha from Bewitched.
Yeah.
She can't do the magic though, but just magic to me. So I married the right girl. But so I'm in Texas Tech. I graduated and I worked for Pepsi for 2 years. And when I worked for Pepsi, our market share rose by 22% in a couple of years.
Oh, wow.
And but then we got a new regional manager, and he and I really didn't get along.
Yeah.
Wasn't the best fit for me, and I left. And I was encouraged to leave.
Yeah.
You're not going to believe this, but at 23, I was pretty cocky. I know.
It's hard to believe.
Hard to believe. So he and I really didn't get along, and if I didn't leave, he was going to fire me.
Yeah.
So I left, and I got a job with Nestle. That was the best thing that could happen to me. So at Pepsi, I learned a lot of things because things were thrown. I was promoted 3 times in a couple years, but I was promoted. The Peter Principle, there's a principle called the Peter Principle, and that means you will be promoted to your level of incompetence.
Yeah.
And at Pepsi, I was promoted to my Peter Principle to where I was incompetent because I didn't have anybody training me. There was no really training. And so I really was starting to fail there. So the best thing that would happen was I left.
Yeah.
I got with Nestle, and I was at Nestle for 15 years.
Oh, wow.
And Nestle, I moved 11 times in 13 years. Nestle moved us, just corporate moved us. I started with them in Houston. And then I moved from Houston to LA, to Seattle, to Atlanta,
wow, man.
to Kansas City,
wow,
to Dallas, back to LA, back to Dallas, to Houston. And I was like Nestle's fix-it guy. So Nestle didn't really let you Peter Principle out because when you would start to reach a level of your incompetence, they would get you a new mentor or a new trainer. So the other thing that I really learned from Nestle was I really had a couple great assistants.
Yeah, yeah.
I had this assistant who gave me one of the quotes that I still use to this day, and her quote was, "You're not outstanding if you're not outselling." So this assistant got paid a percentage of everything that we sold.
Yeah.
So if we sold something, she got a really small percentage of it, and she would always push me out of the office. And I said, "You don't spend as much time pushing the other people out of the office." And she goes, "Well, I make more money on you." So she would do whatever I needed to get me out selling.
Yeah, yeah.
And that really served me well when I got into real estate, realizing the importance of having a great assistant.
Yeah.
But Nestle, I really had a good ride. They were really good to me. They promoted me a lot. And I learned some very valuable lessons there.
Yeah.
The most important lesson that I learned at Nestle, which really applies to listings, this guy called me one time and he said, "You keep getting promoted and I don't." And I said, "Well, yeah, of course." And he goes, "But I'm more talented than you." And I said, "You are. Absolutely. You are better at your job than me." And he goes, "Well, why do you keep getting promoted when I don't?" And I said, "Well, that's because you only understand 3 levels of business and I understand the 4th.
Right.
And he goes, "What's that?" I said, "Well, people think there's 3 levels of business." I said, "There's learning a job, doing it, and doing it well."
Yes.
And that's where most people stop. And I said, "And that's where you stop." I go, "The difference between me and you is I understand the 4th rule." And he goes, "What's the 4th rule?" I go, "I never call my boss.
Exactly. Yes.
For any reason, I never call him.
Yeah.
I'm not going to call my boss on the golf course. I'm not going to call him when he's at home with his wife. I'm never going to call him." And the guy goes, "Well, what happens if this and this and this problem comes along?" I go,
Fix it.
"I fix it."
Yeah.
"Well, what if the boss finds out about it later?" "Well, then he got disturbed once versus 20 times me calling
Yes.
him." So the number one rule I learned from Nestle is I kept getting promoted because my bosses didn't want to take my phone call.
I tell you what, man, that sounds very, very interesting and very, very successful, which helps me understand. I remember the first time I got this job here was a little over a year and a half ago, and you were the first person that I learned in football that when you go into a new territory, you want to definitely talk to your leaders first. You want to talk to your heavy hitters first, and you were the first person I talked to.
That's an honor.
And
I'm not saying you can't call your boss for advice
Yeah.
in a set-up meeting. "Hey, can I have a meeting with you at this time?"
Yeah.
So how you set up a meeting with your manager is you go, "Hey, can I have a meeting with you at this time in the future when you're not playing golf, worried about your wife?"
Exactly, yeah.
You get in the calendar, but you never call your boss off the cuff.
yeah, yeah.
That's something I learned.
So that explains why you were able to sell 72 houses your first year in real estate.
Yes.
That is unheard of, man. How in the heck is you why?
So we'll be specific. So that's marketing to a degree. So I got into real estate in 2005, in May of 2005. And through May of 2005 through December of 2005, which wasn't a full year, I sold like 20 homes.
Wow.
2006 was my first full year in real estate, and I sold 76. So that's what I use. My first full year in real estate, I sold 76. But how I did that is I tell people, when you're in real estate, if there's 3 people in a room, you need to be the 4th.
Yeah.
And I also learned the key people to go out and meet. So to me, the most important people to go out and meet when you're a new agent is new home agents.
Yeah, yeah.
So worst case scenario, if you go meet a new home agent, you learn something about a community you can sell later.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, you make a connection with somebody.
Exactly.
Even better, you get a chance to sell them. So I have a script that I use with new home agents, and I sell between 10 and 15 homes a year with new home agents.
Yeah, yeah.
People think they have to win over every new home agent. They don't. If you win over one new home agent, that's good for 2 or 3 deals a year. So you and I play sports.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you a sports story. So I walk in one time and I see a guy. He's like 6'3", big 6'3" farm boy.
Yeah.
Big 6'3" farm boy. And I noticed he was left-handed. And I said, "You play baseball?" He goes, "Yeah, how'd you know?" I go, "You're 6'3" and left-handed. You were a pitcher and you played first base." He goes,
Yeah.
"How do you know?" I said, "Well, you're 6'3", you're left-handed. You pitched in high school." And I said, "You probably played defensive end or tight end." And he goes, "I played tight end." I go, "Yeah." And I said, "Where do you play college ball?" He goes, How do you know I played college ball?" I go, "You're 6'3" and left-handed. Where do you play college ball?"
Exactly.
He goes, A&M. So he and I just had this connection. And he and I ended up selling like 7 or 8 homes together until he got moved to Pasadena. Oh. But my point is, he and I had that connection. I went in and had discussions with 30 other agents that I struck out with.
Yeah.
Real estate's really about how often are you willing to strike out.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I try to tell these agents, that real estate is a 4-quarter game.
Right.
It's just like football, where you can have a crappy first quarter, but that doesn't mean the game's over. That doesn't mean that the first quarter's over.
Right.
You still got 3 other quarters where you can rebound and still have success. So you can't quit the first time something doesn't go your way. You know.
There's a line that I use a lot now. No great story starts with yes.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, think about it. If you call on somebody and the first call you make is yes, that's great. That's going to get you paid.
Yeah.
But that's not a story you're going to be telling your grandkids.
No.
The stories you're going to be telling your grandkids, and the stories that people will tell about you when they're putting you away, in prison or burying you. The stories that people will be telling about you will all be the stories that started with the tough times you had.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to realize no is just a way to a more interesting story.
Yeah. And the thing about real estate is that, I remember when I was going through real estate school, and one of the professors said, in this business you cannot be discriminated because everyone has a choice to pick who they want. So you can't be discriminated because you had the opportunity to get in front of more people, So early on, I learned that it was a numbers game. It was like baseball. If I get up and hit the ball 10 times, and I only hit the ball 1 out of 10 times, and no, I'm not as great. But if I hit it 3 out of 10, 4 out of 25, if I hit it 25 out of 200, then you're great. It's all about the number of bats that you get.
And just keep batting.
Yeah, you got to keep batting, and as you get better, your percentages will get higher and higher.
Alex Bregman, I think, was 2 for his first 42 when he
Yeah.
came to the Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
And the best thing that happened to him is he was in this just terrible slump. 2 for 42. That's embarrassing. That's less than a 50 point. He's from LSU.
Oh yeah, he's my guy.
That's less than a 50 batting average for those of you who don't baseball. That sucks, right?
Yes.
He sucked. Mm-hmm. And how AJ handled it at the time. AJ moved him up to second line and said, "Brother, we believe in you. Just relax."
Yeah.
And he went on to pretty decent career.
Well, he's done pretty good.
Yeah.
And they got 2 World Series now?
Yeah, 2 World Series. He got a $100 million contract. He's doing okay.
Now he's about to get a $300 million at some point. So
And it's all about he was willing to keep batting even though he was cold.
Yeah. So another one interesting. When I first met with you at your office, we talked about. I didn't realize at the time. I remember seeing your logo, and when I was practicing real estate, I've been in management since 2016 now, so it's been a long time. So I remember coming out to Katy and showing houses, and I'm like, man, who is this guy? See Tim Sojka, So how did you come up with the whole logo thing, man? I mean, what? Because it's very interesting. It's very different, and it's very eye catching, and it's very and it looks like you.
Well, I think the first thing you have to remember is some faces are just made for radio. And I didn't see the advantage of having this face on a ton of business cards. So I knew I had to come up with something different.
Yeah.
And so one day, we were kind of doing, we're doing what I call a brain tree. And I recommend that for everybody. We were trying to come up with our brand.
Yeah.
And we were like, I was running a lot at the time, the running man. When I don't have my beard, I kind of look like Mr. Clean. So we're coming up like Mr. Clean, the running man. We're coming up with all these different ideas. But one day, my daughter came home with a cartoon picture of me drawn.
Oh, wow.
Similar.
Yeah.
And I said, wouldn't that be funny if we put that cartoon picture on my business card? And I called a family member. The family member goes, "That's the stupidest idea I've ever heard."
Well, that means it's right.
That means, yeah. So, but then, so we had the cartoon picture, and we didn't use the one my daughter drew. We got a better, and we got a really good upgraded image. But we liked the cartoon idea, and then since we had the cartoon idea, when I was a young kid, and there's books you learn to read with. See Dick Run. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
See Dick Run, Run Dick Run.
Yeah.
Well, there was a character in there called Tim, so instead of See Tim Run, it became See Tim Sell.
Wow.
And so the advantage of that, the advantage of our brand over anyone else's, is if you can connect someone directly to their childhood, they feel like they've known you forever.
Yeah.
When I say See Tim Sell, you assume you already know me because I've connected directly to your childhood. Yeah. I'm going to give you an example. You ready for a fun one?
Yes.
All right. 1, 2, Freddie's coming for you. 3, 4, you better lock the door. 5, 6, grab a crucifix. 7, 8, you better stay up late. 9, 10, you'll never sleep again.
Yeah.
That, of course, is from Friday the 13th. It's about Freddie.
Yeah.
But the reason that I can remember that song about Freddie is 1, 2, buckle your shoe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because
it relates directly to your childhood. So our brand was designed to, and my background's in marketing and advertising. Let me open with that. Our brand was designed to tap in to your childhood memories without you knowing that we've tapped in. So when I was in business, someone asked a question in my class earlier. They said, how do you deal with the new agent question? And I didn't want to tell them. I never had to deal with it.
Yeah.
Because the way my brand came out, people just assumed I'd been in business forever.
Yeah.
But the 1 or 2 times people did ask, how long have you been in business? I simply said, too long.
Yeah.
Just like that. That's all the answer they needed. But I think the most important thing your brand can do is it gives you credibility right away. But your brand has to be who you are. I had someone who played a lot of chess, and I said, look, you should definitely have, it was a woman, you should definitely have the queen in your logo.
Yeah.
I talked to a guy who liked to solve puzzles, and his brand became Solving Your Real Estate Puzzles.
Yeah.
Your brand has to impart who you are.
Yeah.
And I don't take myself too seriously. I'm not really worried about having the perfect picture of myself. I don't drive a BMW. It fit my personality.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, interestingly, I think I'm a shark, sales-wise, and that cartoon image hides my dorsal fin.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Explanation there. So, man, another thing that I found very interesting about you when I was sitting down with you the first time is we talked about the Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
And how it came about, and at the time I still didn't know that you were a book author. I mean, I still, so when I came back to the office, oh yeah, Tim wrote 2 books, So I think you had talked about the how Wizard of Oz was I can't remember the name.
It's a political allegory.
Yeah, and then when you told me the stories about it, then I understood it better.
Yes.
And so how did you go from Nestle real estate to now you have 2 amazing books?
So wait, hold on.
It's bringing me up. That's the third one. And now you're
My,
the third
my
book.
third book, 39, is out March 30th.
Yes.
So
go out and buy.
Yeah.
Trust me, it's a great read.
But seriously, let's talk about how you get to write a book, how you get to do what you want in real estate.
Yeah.
So real estate is either, and this is a quote that my wife found, real estate is either the easiest, lowest paying job you'll ever have, or the hardest, highest paying job you'll ever have.
That's true. Yeah.
Step 1 is turn real estate into the highest paying job you've ever had.
Yeah.
Don't do anything else before you do that.
Right.
Go out and work your butt off and make some money. So how you get there, so how do you write a novel from real estate? It's a process. So step 1 is sell a lot of real estate. Step 2 is create a list of everything you hate.
Wow.
Every single thing you hate. And the first hire, when it's time to give them their job description, you hand them that list.
This is what I don't want.
And they may say, well, I don't want to do that. Well, that's what I'm paying you to do.
Exactly.
You know who's not getting paid to do those things? Me.
Exactly. Yes.
Welcome to your new job. And then once you have your first employee and they're doing really, really good, you write down a list of the things you're still doing that you hate doing.
Wow.
That's your second hire. So I knew I hated transactions. So my first hire was a transaction coordinator. At the time, my beautiful wife came in and she said, Tim, could you sell more homes if I take the paperwork off of you? And I'm terrible at paperwork. And I said, yes. It's funny, somebody asked me a paperwork question. Hey, Tim, how do you do this? I don't know. So step 1 is my wife came in and was my closing manager. And remember I told you when I was with Nestle, I had that great assistant. Nestle taught me that great assistant really matters. So my wife came in and handled all the stuff that I was terrible at. And that's how I sold 72 homes. She was handling the stuff I didn't want to do so I could go sell. So she's doing this great job. I'm going to sell. And then working for me, if you're my wife, I'm sure it's a little infuriating. So she left and we hired someone else. But then the next thing is, well, I don't like to put listings in the system. Then we hired someone to do that. Then after a while, it's like, I don't really like showing buyers. So we hired someone to do that. And then now I don't even like going on listings that much anymore. So we let them do that. And I'm going to do commercial real estate for a while, which I'm doing, which is fun. But when I get tired of that, I won't do that. So step 1 is sell a lot of real estate. Step 2 is write down the stuff you don't like and give it to other people. But the most important thing you can do for your life is time blocking. So I've written 3 novels, an hour a day. So I write 1 novel a year, and I have an hour a day to write it. And people say you can't write a novel in an hour a day. Well, you can. I've done it 3 times.
So good.
So whether they're good or not, I've got to do something I love, right? So how my day looks like is I get up at 5:15. I have my time with God from 5:15 to about 5:30, 5:45. I'm also multitasking at the time. I won't say the other thing I'm doing. And then I go out for a run, and then I take a shower, and then I come back and I get to write for an hour. And then I have to be C10 Cell. So the rest of the day, I don't focus on my novel anymore. I focus on C10 Cell. I get an hour a day. Some on the weekends, I get 2 or 3 hours to write my book. But it really comes down to time blocking. And you need to time block for the things you love. And people go, well, that's easy for you to say that. You don't have 5 kids. If you have 5 kids, you can still time block. When I had my daughter, and she was living at home, it was tougher. I'll be the first to admit that. I didn't have 5 kids. I just had one. It was tougher.
Yeah.
You can still time block an hour a day for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And do something you love in that hour a day.
Well, it's amazing what you can do when you have to do it. So that's part of your must-haves. Right. So you make it work, you know.
I think the best thing that happened to guys like you and I is you and I grew up without much.
Yeah, yeah.
And guys who grew up without much aren't afraid to take chances because what are they going to do to us?
Yeah.
Make us go back to having nothing? That doesn't scare me. I've been there.
You've done that before.
Yeah, I've been there. You know, I tell people, I got a 25-year poverty test when I was younger.
Yes.
I would prefer not to go back,
Yeah.
but it doesn't scare me.
Yeah.
And if I lost everything I have, again, I want to stress, God, I prefer not to try that out.
Yes, me too.
I prefer not to pull the Job, right?
Yeah.
But if I have to, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Because I've been there.
Yeah.
So it really is about setting yourself up and putting talented people around you. And you remember I told you I created this list of things I didn't like and I gave it to people.
Yeah.
But it's not like I made their life miserable. When you agree to take someone on, you're telling them, I'm going to make my world big enough for you to support your world in.
Yeah, yeah.
And the thing that I'm probably proudest of as a team leader is we now have 13 people that can make a living because of CTM Cell. The company my wife and I started, there are 13 people that now make an income from that. That's a wonderful feeling.
It is a wonderful feeling, man. I think last year you closed, what, 230, 40 houses last year?
We got right at 200. It was, but we had our biggest year ever volume-wise because we're doing a lot more commercial now.
Yeah.
I think we did like 170 houses and 30 commercial buildings.
Yeah.
So
one of the other things that I was you know, I never heard this before from coming from somebody that was a team leader, a rainmaker. You know, you talked about building kingdoms. You know, how you want everybody who comes on your team to build a kingdom.
Yes.
You know, and you encourage them to be their best and to be on their own. You know.
So when I worked at Nestle, when I started with them, it's kind of funny. They said we've hired our superstar, which wasn't me.
Yeah.
And we hired this guy who's our workhorse, and that was me. And this guy who was going to be the superstar wasn't, which is convenient. But they said we're going to give you this crummy little account.
Yeah.
And so this is your kingdom, this crummy little account. Well, I doubled the business of that crummy little account. So they gave me another crummy little account, which I doubled. And then they gave me another crummy little account, which I got bigger. And then they started giving me the superstars accounts, right?
Yeah.
So I looked at each of those accounts that I had as kingdoms. Like, okay, I'm managing it now, but because I made it bigger, someone else could take it over.
Yeah.
So at CTM Cell, when I started there, we had this company that called us, and they said, hey, we're going to start. You're doing a good job. We're going to give you a few listings a year.
Yeah.
Well, I turned that account into an account that we were getting 10 or 12 listings from a year.
Oh, wow.
Well, most listing agents keep that account and never give it up.
Yeah.
But what I did is I gave that to one of my other account members, team members, and I said, this is yours now. This is your kingdom. I'm going to go find another one.
Yeah.
And that account, that 12 a year, has now spawned into 3 different ones. So we now manage 3 of those accounts. They're probably only, they're not doing as well, but 5 or 6 transactions a year come from those.
Yeah.
And then I went out and created another kingdom, which I ran for about a year.
Yeah.
And then you give it away to someone else. So you go find a source of business, you build it up, and then you find the person that can take it from you, so you can go build something else. And then by you giving that kingdom to someone, you give them a chance to grow. Yeah. And you show them how to kingdom build.
Wow.
There's a line that I use a lot. If you create people, if you help people build, oh darn it, I can't remember. If you create a world where people learn to grow, you will grow people that can build kingdoms.
Yes.
So you just let people grow, and they will learn to grow big. One of the things that I'm proudest of is the team we have is unbelievable, and watching the people grow there is incredible. But also when I see people that leave the team, like Lorraine Bennett here, you know, she used to be on CTM Cell, and to watch her grow, and she, you know, one of her, not her first job, but one of her first jobs in real estate was working with me.
Yeah.
When you see agents who leave my team that go on to be successful.
They're all successful. I don't want to say their names in public, but man, right now there's probably 4 names that I come up with that probably did 200 transactions last year.
Yeah.
You know, and they all started on your team.
So you just help people grow, and you do that by you give them a taste for this is what a kingdom looks like, and this is yours now. You build on that kingdom, and let's see what you can do next.
Yeah.
And that's how we've had a lot of successes, giving people, trusting people with more, and not keeping it to yourself. So the easy thing is, if I keep all of this for myself, I make more. And my theory is, if I give all of this away to someone else, I make more. Henry Ford once said, I would rather have 1% of everybody else's 100% effort than 100% of mine.
Yes.
And I would rather have 1% of someone else's effort than 100% of mine. And I would rather have a small percentage of what someone else is making, knowing that I am training. If you're doing this right, by the way, you are training your people every day to lead you.
Yeah, you should.
Every day, you are making them strong enough to lead you, and hope they stay with you long enough. And they will. And when they leave, it's a really neat conversation when they come in and someone says, I'm leaving, and you're like, I am so happy for you. But it's devastating too, because you're like, oh my gosh, I just lost somebody great. But they're better now than they were when they got here.
And the way I look at it,
I'm better.
Exactly.
Before they got there. So that's good.
And the way I look at it is, everyone is not, it's kind of like from the sports background, I remember when I was in high school, my coach was like, look, I'm only going to have you for 4 years, but I wanted to make it the best 4 years for the both of us, Because at some point, you're going to have to grow up, you're going to have to grow on, and you're going to go on to bigger and better things, but I want you to be able to take everything that I've given you these 4 years to make you a better person, to make you a better man. And I think if you have that mindset, because we talked about it earlier, everything that I've ever learned in life has been because I failed.
Yes.
It's not because it worked the first time. It's not because it happened the first time. I remember the first time I said a little ago, I said, look, I want to make 5 tackles in the game. Then I did 5, and I'm like, now I want to do 10. Then I did 10. Now I want to do 15. Now I want to do 20.
Did you ever get to 20?
I got to 20, yes.
Oh.
So,
in a college game?
No, in the high school. Yeah. And so, but it's like you set those little goals, and it's like, and I remember the coach told me, he's like, when the next morning after I made the 20 tackles in the game, I think it was 23 tackles, I think. And he says, I said, Coach, man, I finally got to 20 tackles. He said, yeah, but you'd have had 28 if you didn't miss these 5.
Yeah.
Because, and to me, it was like he was always pointing out the things that I could have done better, and I appreciate that.
The toughest coaches show you love, but they're tough on you too.
Yes.
I mean, if I think of the coaches that I learned the most from, they really are. So I have this saying in sales, and you probably have that too from when you play football, is it doesn't matter how much I sold yesterday. When I wake up in the morning and I put my foot on the floor, I say to myself every day, you haven't sold anything yet today.
Exactly. Yeah.
Realizing it doesn't matter what you did the day before. I haven't sold anything yet today. And it's funny when you have a big team, people don't believe this, but you're not profitable every month.
No.
I've had months where we've made profited, and when I say profited, I mean goes to the ownership. Over $150,000. 1 month. And I've had 3 months in a row where I've lost $30,000 a month.
Wow.
And that is painful.
Oh yeah.
That means you, as an owner, are investing $30,000 back in your company to keep it going for $90,000.
Yes.
In the hopes that it keeps going. It means your credit card bills are up.
Oh,
it means this and that. And that's a painful place to be. But ultimately, it's like I can cut my team, but I believe in these people. And it's December in real estate or March in real estate. March in real estate is not great, but April is. I'm going to hang on till April. So people think every day is sunny, but when you own a business, when it's just you and your business goes up and down, that stinks. But I have a lot of people to take care of.
You got 14, 13 people. And it's and that's the thing. I mean, I remember the first time I closed 10 houses in a month. I mean, and I was like, man, this is amazing.
As an individual agent, that's good money.
Yeah, it was good. I'm like, and one of my friends who was an agent was like, well, man, what are you gonna do? I'm like, that was last month. I got to try to do it again. So it's like, because and I don't think people really don't understand how hard agents really work.
They don't.
I mean, they have no clue. I mean, they just think that you ride around in your BMW and your Mercedes and you show 2 houses and they buy a house and they write a contract. And there's a lot more stuff that goes into it that people have no clue.
Real estate is hard.
It's very hard, but you have to enjoy it. It's kind of like a basketball player or a baseball player. I mean, the grind is hard, but they enjoy it. I tell my son all the time, it's like, we play sports for a different reason. I played it because I knew I couldn't go to college unless I either got an academic scholarship or athletic scholarship. I couldn't. My parents couldn't afford to pay for me to go to college. So
Same way.
his journey is different. I mean, you know, he don't have to have that to do it. You know,
Wouldn't stink.
yeah, it wouldn't hurt me. I would appreciate it. You know,
Right.
but I mean, so it's like when you don't have to have it, when you wake up every day and you know that you have to be the reason that you get out of this situation, it's a little different. You know.
So is the right word I'm looking for exhortation? Exhortation means, I think, to breathe into somebody and to encourage somebody. And Paul Crandall, who I'm blessed enough to,
I love Paul, man.
to work with,
Yeah.
he manages our salespeople, and he's great at just building people up and having to believe in them. And he said, you know, Tim, you're not a day-to-day manager, but you're great at exhorting people. You're great at encouraging people. And I think I am. But it's funny. I grew up without a lot. But one thing my mom got really, really right is from the youngest age, from the time I was 4 or 5, she said, when you go to college.
Yeah.
She didn't say she was going to pay for college.
Yeah.
She didn't.
Yeah.
She didn't say how I was going to get to college because she didn't know.
Yeah.
But she said, when you go to college. So it's funny, from the youngest age, I always knew I was going to college.
Yeah.
Always knew.
And that's how I was too, Tim. I mean,
I had somebody believe in me, and like, and I'm the same way. I had to get a scholarship to get there. And
Yeah.
I don't get to college without a scholarship.
And I think the thing that really saved me, and I'll give a shout out to my family now, is that, you know, so as I got older, I started spending more and more time with my dad's side of the family, and they all were entrepreneurs. You know, they either owned a grocery. My uncle owned a grocery store, and him and my uncles, my dad, they all were together. They owned grocery stores. They owned, you know, they had multiple grocery stores. My uncle owned a lawn service, landscaping company, furniture business. You know, so they all showed you how to take a chance on yourself.
Because that's the only way they had.
That's the only way they had. You know, so when I made the decision to get into real estate, I quit my job cold turkey. Like, I quit my job. I went home and it was like, I quit my job. What the hell?
Hey, people, that's a scary day.
It was a very scary day. And I didn't even know what the hell I was going to do. I'm like, I didn't think I was going to. So I roamed around for like 3 weeks just as a lost human being. I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. And then I started thinking, I said, man, I've graduated in construction management from LSU. I've got all this knowledge. I've worked for Centerpoint, working with developers, working with all these neighborhoods around, designing all these power grids and all this stuff and the transmission grid. And then I left there and went to work for Perry Homes as a builder. So I'm like, man, I know how to build a house like the back of my hand. Real estate's the thing for me. I said, you know what? There won't be another agent that is smart, that knows more about homes than I do.
And Perry Homes is one of the best at teaching.
One of the best, you know. So went to real estate school, got my license in about 3 weeks. Sold my first house like 3 days after I got my license because I had a friend of mine that was ready to buy a house. You know, thought it was going to be easy. And then I didn't sell anything else for like 5 months. You know, so.
Real estate's scary.
It's very scary, man, you know. But I knew if I kept doing all of those, I kept showing houses, I kept open houses, kept marketing, you know, using my social media to market. I didn't have money to go and farm. I didn't know all that stuff, man. I mean, I don't, you know. So I just kept doing the process, and then it just worked. You know, it just started working. So, you know, it's a business where if you really, really want to make, if you and I can make it, Tim,
anybody can.
Anybody can.
Well, and I think you really have to have the attitude. One of my friends was paying me a compliment, or he thought he was. He said, I could throw you out of the back of a truck in a town you don't know, and you could find a way to make $10,000 a month. I said, really, that's all you think of me, just $10,000?
Yeah. Yes.
And he goes, I was trying to pay you a compliment. Yeah. But I think that really is what you have to go into this with, is you really have to go into this knowing you're going to be successful, believing you're going to be successful, because you're going to outwork other people.
Yeah, yeah.
My wife gave me some really good advice early. So I actually had my limo license, where I drove limos at night. It's an extra way to make money. I saw some crazy stuff.
I bet you did, man.
Awesome.
Oh, man.
But when I first got into real estate, I was considering doing that at night just to make extra money. Yeah. And she said, okay, let's do the math, Tim. And I said, okay. She goes, how much do you get paid to drive a limo? I can make like $100 a night. She goes, let's say you did that 5 nights a week. That's $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
She goes, that's not bad. You know, $2,000 a month, guaranteed money.
Yeah.
She goes, if you spent those same 2 or 3 hours in the evening calling people, and you just did one real estate transaction, how much is that worth? I said, it's worth a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
And she goes, well, why aren't you just picking up the phone and calling people?
Yeah, yeah.
And I went out to some new home agents, and that's back when they kept the stacks of clients that came by
Yeah,
before all the
yeah.
computers. Remember they had the stacks.
Yeah.
And I went to this one new home agent, and he was a raging alcoholic, and he had a stack of literally 100 to 200
Yeah.
that he didn't turn into his corporate office. And I said, what are you going to do with those? He goes, I don't know. Do you want them? And so he handed me 150 leads, and I called every one of them.
Yeah.
That became 2 transactions.
Wow.
$14,000 off of just calling these leads.
Yeah.
And she was right. In real estate, the single most effective thing we can do is pick up the phone or go out and door knock. I was telling the class earlier, I actually did a stat. When I go out door knocking, I average $475 an hour.
Wow.
Door knocking.
Yeah.
But most people aren't going to do that.
No.
It's funny. People always go, why do you give away your scripts for free? You're not going to use them.
Well, it's like, I can, because I don't know if you notice, I like to cook a lot.
Oh, you're good at it.
So, man,
I've seen your stuff, yeah.
So I can give you the recipe, but you still don't have the secret sauce.
Right.
Because you're still not, you don't know the right moves to make,
That's
how real estate is.
And I think that's important, but I think it's also, we're in a business of helping people.
Yeah.
And Chris Hiller, who I look up to so much.
I love him, man.
There was an agent when I was here that it used to be me, Chris Hiller, and this other agent.
Yeah.
And Chris said to me, he goes, Tim, you and I are going to be around a long time, and that guy's not going to be in business forever.
Yeah.
And I said, why? And he goes, well, you and I come from a world of bounty.
Yeah.
And what that means is, you and I believe there's plenty out there for everybody if you just work hard enough.
Yeah.
And he goes, that agent operates from a world of scarcity. If he doesn't take this listing for me or you, he's got to go out of business.
Yeah.
He lives in a world of scarcity.
Yeah.
And you and I live in bounty. And I think that's really what Keller Williams is about. And that's why it's been such a blessing to me is, if I need to learn something, I can call another Keller Williams agent, they'll tell me.
Yeah.
So I have to pay that forward. I didn't come out of the box doing $80 million a year. There's people who got me here.
Yeah.
And I owe so much to them. I tell people, I've only been in front of Gary Keller 3 times.
Yeah.
Where he was talking to me, when I say me, a room of us.
Yeah.
And he used to wear all black. Does he still do that?
I never didn't see me anything other than black.
So he was wearing all black one time, and I made a mistake of making a joke with Gary Keller, which he doesn't handle well. So he's presenting, and I go, you've got to save a lot of money on the cleaning bill. I mean, everything matches.
Everything.
He didn't think that was funny and just moved on. But when I went to a class with him a couple times, he said some things that I just carry with me. And one is time on task is more important than talent.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are so many people in this business that are more talented than me.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm willing to sit on the phone and get rejected more than them.
Yeah.
There are so many people in this business who are better looking than me, they have more money than me, they drive a better car than me, but they won't go door knock.
Yeah.
There are so many people in this business that are better than you and I at all of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But potential means, this is a Yogi Berra quote, potential means you ain't doing it right yet.
Exactly. Yeah.
And Gary Keller, time on task is more important than talent.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I definitely, it's and I've only been at Keller Williams for a year and a half, and it's different, and I worked for another broker for 10 years, and it was great. It was, helped me get where I need to go. But when I look at the differences, Keller Williams is a business model.
Yes.
And that's what I tell agents. It's not, you have 2 types of brokers. You have a partnership model, and you have a business model. Right. And Keller Williams is a business model. You can truly build a successful business here.
You can.
And
and people come to me all the time to leave Keller Williams, and the reason I haven't is they helped build me to where I am, and I'm very grateful for that. Gary Keller said another quote, and it wasn't in context of real estate, and that quote may have helped me more than any quote he said. So Gary Keller has a dog. I have a dog.
Yeah, yeah.
You have a dog?
No, I don't. My daughter wants one so bad.
Okay. So one thing Gary Keller said about dogs, which is true, he said a tired dog is a happy dog.
Yeah.
A dog that you just took out for a walk and is exhausted is a happy dog.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm happiest when I'm tired because I put in a good day's work. Yeah. When I go home and I feel like I gave it my best, I'm a happy dog.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm wagging my tail. I know I'm a little prouder of my wife. I'm proud of what I've accomplished.
Yeah.
And that feeling is addicting.
It is. It's very addicting. I remember when I was in high school and you play a game and you lose, and some of the guys used to cry after the game because they felt bad, but I never cried after the game. Because I remember one of my coaches telling me that if you gave everything that you gave on the field, then you shouldn't feel bad. Sometimes it's just not your day.
All right, I quote country songs a lot, you know that, so here we go. My favorite country quote about that is, the next best thing in life to playing and winning is playing and losing.
Yeah, I mean, it's because 50% are going to win and 50% are going to lose.
At least I got to play.
Exactly.
I have been in some incredible games that I won, and those are great. And I've been in some incredible games that I lost.
Yes.
and it's not as good because you didn't win.
Yeah.
But you learn so much from that. I think the best thing sports teaches you is that, and I think this is so valuable. When you lose, the next day life goes on.
Yeah.
And so many people haven't learned that. They lose and they pout and when you and I lost a game, because I played sports, not at your level by any means. I was an average athlete. But when I lost a game, I played baseball. You had another game the next day.
Yeah.
And you just got over it really quickly because you had to.
Yeah.
And then if you lost that game, you had another game the next day.
Yeah.
And that's a very powerful thing.
Yeah. And that's I studied Nick Saban a lot because his journey from,
because he's the man.
Well, he's only the greatest college football coach I've ever seen. I think in this era. I mean, just in any era. But the reason why he's so successful because he learns more from his losses than he ever learns from his wins. So I don't know. I always felt like even when you win a game, you move on real quick. I mean, after every game that we won on a Friday night, it's like, okay, that's done. Now we got Saturday. We got to get ready for the next one. But when you lose it, man, that loss sits on you until you win the next one.
I had these two investors that I worked with. We bought a house, so I worked with these investors, and we found a house for $303,000. It was foreclosure at the time. And then during the inspections, I negotiated it down to $270,000.
Yeah.
They put $100,000 in it, so we're at $370,000. They sold the house for $625,000.
Wow. Yeah.
And I told these guys, this is the worst thing that could have ever happened to you.
Yeah.
And they said, what? I go, on your first transaction, you made $300,000.
But you gonna expect that every time?
I said, it's the worst thing that could happen to you. So here's what they did to reward me. So for finding that house for $330,000 that I sold for $600,000, they fired me because I had the nerve to make, what I make, $10,000-15,000 off of that.
Yeah.
And I hired their sister as a real estate agent.
Yeah.
So.
But
wait, then they went to the next deal, and then they lost $100,000, and then they called me.
Yeah.
And of course, I wouldn't work with them at that time because they proved they weren't loyal. But I said, you don't understand. You just had the best thing that could happen to you happen to you. You lost $100,000.
Yeah.
Go, that's not the best thing. I go, no, it is. You, like you said, you learn more from that loss.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, because for me, you study more when you lose.
You do.
Because
it sucks.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes sometimes I feel, I don't know about you, but I feel bad about having success sometimes because it's like when you turn on the TV and you see so much going on, it's like you see what's happening in Turkey and all these places where these people are they're losing their lives, and it's like, man, you wish I wish that I was able enough to be able to help hundreds of thousands of people, because it's sometimes it seems like it's not fair, but at the end of the day, you do work your butt off, and you put things in place to. And someone asked me, "Is this world more racist than it's before?" And I'm like, "No, because you have more opportunities now in this world." Now that doesn't mean that you won't be discriminated because I know somebody at LSU and you don't,
right?
Or it doesn't mean that I won't be discriminated because you know someone at Texas Tech and I don't. But it has nothing to do with our color.
So America is not the land of equal opportunity yet, and it's all of our responsibility to get it there. Because if every race makes more money, I also make more money.
Yes.
So I believe in the land of opportunity, selfishly. So America is the land of opportunity. It's not the land of equal opportunity yet.
Yeah.
But I think we're the country that has the best shot at getting there.
We do.
And I love this country for that. And I love that two guys that grew up without a lot. You can accomplish a lot here. I love that, and I love this country so much for that.
Yeah.
And I love that people can have different opinions here and still be successful.
Yes.
I had a pastor tell me this. I was going through this small church, and he goes, "It's easy to hate people from a distance. It's hard to hate them up close."
Yes.
And I think the best thing you can do is get to know people. Look, if I only did business with people that look like me,
I wouldn't be here.
I wouldn't survive.
No.
Most of my business comes from people who have accents I can barely understand, who weren't born here, who talk too fast or too slow for me. They don't look anything like me. They come from a different background. If you live in Houston to be successful, you don't have the financial power to be successful.
And and we're in a city that's, I think Houston is probably the most diverse city, not just in people, but in jobs and opportunity. It's Las Vegas without the lights.
It is.
Because,
put it.
I mean, and I remember when I got in real estate, the oil and gas stuff was booming, and at one point there was like 18,000 people a month moving to Houston. I mean,
it was awesome.
It was crazy. It was good. But my philosophy was I don't need all the 18,000 to hire me as a real estate agent. I don't need 1,800. I don't need 108 of them to hire me. I just need to convince 4 people a month to let me work for them. You know, and when you break it down like that, it don't look like it's that big of a task. And if I don't go out and get my 4 people a month, it's not because it's on me. There's 18,000 people coming a month. You got to convince 4 people a month that you want to, you know.
You know, we talked earlier about the guy that I talked to because I could tell he played baseball just by looking at him. And again, you don't have to win them all over. You just have to win over a few.
Yes.
Rejection is a wonderful thing in this business. It is a wonderful training ground.
Yeah.
And getting over the losses really quickly is the best thing you can have.
Yeah.
It's the best thing about this business. You have to learn to be rejected.
Well, I tell you what, man, we're going to end on that note because I know you're a very busy man. I shake hands with Tim. It's one of the best opportunities I ever have to talk to you any chance I get. So thank you so much, man.
Thank you so much. All the best out there in Keller Williams world. Remember, you're not outstanding if you're not outselling.
Yes. And book when it's come
That
out
was
again?
March 30th. March 30th. Sorry, my voice is cracking. That was March 30th. But you can get any of my first 2 books online right now.
Thank you. And it's, what's the name of the first? The
Payback Jack and Political.
Okay, good. Thank you so much,
Thanks.
guys.
Bye-bye.
And we'll see you guys the next time.